Hello, distance learners. You guys have a test coming up tomorrow. We are going to go through 4, I think, on the practice test, and then the ones in here are going to ask me questions. I already had a request for number 21. So if I have time in this recording, I can only do 15 minutes. If I have time, I'll squeeze it in. If not, just make sure you show me a picture of these that I'm choosing. We already went over the simplifying in the Ed puzzle yesterday, so we're going to move on to a multiplication. So I know you guys did number 5 in class with Mr. P. Can you take yours out, Summer, too?
Oh, yeah.
And Nick, are you going to take out your practice test? Thank you. All right. With number 5, with multiplying, when you see just this dot, you don't need to do anything as far as you don't need to multiply by a reciprocal. You don't need to get a common denominator. You really just need to cancel common factors. And when they're like this, you don't even have to factor them. You just have to ask yourself, does a 5 live on the bottom somewhere? And the answer is yes. It's over here, but it's still on the bottom. So you're going to take a bite out of the 5, and you're going to bite a 5 or divide a 5 out of the 15. Then you're going to go to the x's, and you're going to say, well, are there any x's on the bottom? And there are. So you're going to kill off 2 of them, which will leave 2 on the bottom, right? Then you're going to say, well, how about 9? Can I take anything out of it? And you're going to say yes. Most kids would recognize that there's a 3 in it, and they take a 3 out of here. But note that you're not done, right, guys? Because what still cancels, those of you in here? What still cancels, Lils? The 3's. So just make sure you take it all the way down. Now, let's suppose Lily didn't notice those 3's canceled, right? She would have been left with, on the top, a 3, because she wouldn't have canceled it, and on the bottom, a 3x squared, and she should look at it then and go, uh-oh, I can still take out a 3. So whether you get it all in your first attempt or not, doesn't really matter. Just make sure you eventually get it up. Now I'm going to ask you a question. How about Summer? If this had been division, what would we have done differently?
Flipped the 9.
Exactly. If you guys can't hear, she said flip this second one and then do the exact same process. All right? So watch whether it's division or whether it's multiplication. All right. So the next one I want to do is different for 2 reasons. It's got a different link. It's now division, and it also requires some factoring. Had number 9 been multiply, you would have factored, canceled, moved on. But it's division, so we're going to do exactly what Summer said. We're going to take that second one before we even start doing anything. All right, so we're going to take that second one. We're going to multiply by, and you can use a dot, over, and we're going to flip it. All right. Next thing you need to do is cancel common factors, guys, but you got to find the factors. All right? So, Jackson, what goes into both 4 and 2 even? 2. And how many n's can I take out, Sky? Jackson's telling me I can pull a 2 out of both of the numbers. How many n's can I also pull out? 2. We have the smallest exponent. So between those two, Jackson and Sky, we're going to divide a 2 out of both. As Jackson said, 2 is in common. We're also going to take 2 n's out of both, which will still leave 1 n in there. And when we take on the next one, when we divide the 2 out, we just get 1. And the n squareds are all gone. So make sure you put a 2n minus 1. You can check that on your test tomorrow, Summer, by just going like this. Hop it back in. 4n cubed, check. Minus 2n squared, check. So I know they did a good job. All right, I'm going to go over here because there's nothing you can do on that one. And there's nothing you can do on that one. But I'm going to point at this guy. There is something you can do here. Who sees it? The n squared minus 9. I can't do what Jackson and Sky just helped me do by pulling something common out because it doesn't have anything in common. Do any of you guys remember what you can do with that one? Whenever you have that squared term, it's called unfoiling. So you're going to put down your 2 brackets. You ask yourself 2 questions. Can you pull anything out? No. And then you try to, if you see that it's squared like this, you try to unfoil it. What's the only thing you can multiply to get n squared? N and n. Now look at the top. Remember, we want canceling. So what do you think we're going to choose to end it with? 9 and 1 or 3 and 3? Look at the top. What do you think, Kelly? Think I'm going to choose 3s to get the 9? Or 9 and 1? Look at the top up here. Let it help you. 3s. Yeah, because we see that n plus 3 on the top. This is what's called the difference of squares. Got to be careful with your signs. You need one positive and one negative. All right, so this one was division, so we multiplied by the flip. You guys help me factor. Now we're going to go cancel. Do you see a 2 as a factor in the denominator? No. I see an n squared, though, so let's go chop it out. Do I see a 2n minus 1 on the bottom? No. Do I see an n plus 3 on the bottom? Yes. So when we're all done, we've got to take what's left on the top, which was just the 2n minus 1. That's all that was left over. And then what's left on the bottom, which is an n minus 3. Lily, can I cancel those n's off? Right here. Can I cancel? I'm going to show it for the distance learners. Can I cancel those 2 n's off? No, because they're holding hands with other terms. All right, so that's multiplication and division. We're now going to move into addition and subtraction. I chose subtraction for both of these because it tends to be harder. When you add and subtract, you always need that LCD. And remember when we did these in here, you guys were really good at it. So be careful. Remember what you do is your LCD, I'm going to write it over here, needs to have every factor. Put that in parentheses. It needs an x plus 1. And it needs an x. You might say, I already has an x. No, this x is not an x. It's an x holding hands with a 1. It's a couple. All right? So it also needs the x. So let's go do that. And let's go put our x plus 1 times x on the bottom of the first one. And then our x plus 1 times x on the bottom of the second. And I'll give you enough time, and I'm going to pick on a couple of you. So when I have my LCD, I'm going to go grab my highlighter because I think it helps sometimes, especially distance learners when they can't see me pointing at stuff. So when I go up here and I say, well, this one has an x plus 1, and I don't need that then. What do I need to give the first term? What do you think? What do I need to give that 3? What doesn't it have? The x. Yeah. Technically, you're giving it to the bottom and the top, but we already gave it to the bottom. So we'd have a 3x on the top. The next one already has the x. What does it need? X plus 1. Excellent. All right, this is where you have to be careful. And I don't know how your teachers taught it, but I think I saw when you guys were doing your homework. Summer, correct me if I'm wrong, but does Monahan have you go plus and negative? Or is that Peshman? Or Peshman does? Or you can do either. Just make sure you know that this is a -2 technically that you're hopping in here. It's not, so if you want to do plus and negative, that's fine, but that's a -2. So -2 times x is at -2x, right? So I think it's safer just to go plus and minus and just say, well, I have a -2x, and then I'd have a -2. So remember, now that we have that common denominator, adding and subtracting is kind of hard. We're going to keep it, and we're going to deal with the tops. So we have 3 x's minus 2 of them gives us 1x, or just an x. And then we have the lone -2. Nothing cancels, so you're going to circle it and move along. All right, let's go to the next one. My common denominator needs an x in it and something else. What else does it need in it? Go ahead, Nyla. It needs to have an x in it. What else does it need? 3. So 3x is my common denominator. So we're going to put a 3x on the bottom of the first one and a 3x on the bottom of the second. And then you ask yourself, what does it need? Well, this one needs the 3. So you're going to go times 3, right? The other one doesn't need anything, so leave it. So here we go. We'll have a 15, again, you got to multiply that in, plus 3x, boom. I got to be really careful when we do this. All right, are you ready? We're ready to go? Here we go. Callie, you ready? Be very careful when you combine your like terms, because this is 15 minus -7. So do I go down to 12 or do I go up 7 to 22? What do you think? Up 7. Yeah, to 22. Make sure you realize that you're subtracting both of those. This is a 3x, and again, it's minus 2x. So that's just an x. Do these two x's cancel? What do you think the answer is, Lily, again? No, because the one on the top's holding hands with 22, and you can't split them apart. All right, I hope I have time to do the division, and just in case I don't, I'm going to do the one that's worth more points and that's harder. I can only record for 15 minutes. So let's go through. You guys were so good at this when we did it, but it's been a long time since we've practiced it, right? So remember with the long division, you grab that first one. Let's go do that and you rewrite. So let's all go rewrite that. And then you put it under your division bar. And if you leave this one blank, you're going to lose a big chunk of points because this is a long process. So you guys remember how this starts? Do you remember what I said to look at? I used a phrase, stick to the left. Yeah. I said deal with those only and just do x squared divided by x. Make it really easy on yourself. Just focus on the first two. What's x squared divided by x? X. Do you remember where I said to put that so you don't get
Above the.
awesome above its like term there, so you know when you're done. All right, that's the first step. Well, actually, it's the second step. The third step is the one sometimes kids forget. Actually, it is the one you're going to forget, and then you get stuck. Remember, you have to multiply that back in. When we did these, I said, I feel good about that. I feel good about Summer telling me that was an x, because when I multiply it back in, I got the x squared, and it should always be the same over here on the left. All right, don't forget to multiply it here, though, so it's going to be a minus 1x. That's the step you're going to forget, if anything. Most kids know what to do with the two levels. Once you have the two levels, what do I do with them? How do I move down a level? Who remembers? Some of you are working away. Why don't you go answer that? How do I move down a level?
From where?
From here. Like, I've got my two levels, level 1, level 2. How do I move down? Subtract. Yeah, somebody said it in the back. Do you remember what I said you might want to do instead of subtracting? Add the what? Opposites. Yeah, just to watch those signs there. So I feel really good about our process because these disappear. They always should. If yours don't, you divide it wrong. -7 plus 1 is a -6x. All right. Do you remember what we do right now? We start over again.
Oh, you already did that.
Yeah, I brought the bring the 10 down if you didn't hear her. I should have said that. Thank you. So we drop that 10 down, then we start all over again. We're ready to repeat. We go to this and we say, well, I've got to divide it by x. What happens when you get a -6x and you chop an x out of it? You get a -6. All right. Let's see. How about Murph? Do you remember what I do with this -6 right here? Not yet. Do you remember, Lils? Yeah, you got to multiply it back in. I feel really good about how we're doing, again, because I got a match. Okay? And then don't forget to do the other one and watch your signs. It's a negative times a negative, which makes a positive. What do we do to the two levels? We subtract, but I like to add the opposites just to be careful. Feeling great about it, Sky, because those disappear, correct? Now I'm at the end of the line. I'm at the end of my division bar, and I'm at the end of my levels. Who remembers? You remembers? What do I do with that 4?
You add, and then you put 4 over x minus 1.
Yes, you always go, and they don't have much practice. You might want to practice that one on your own in preparation for the test, because isn't that the only one of these on the practice test? Or is that number 21 you were asking me? Who asked me to do number 21? Lily, is that another long division?
Yeah.
Let's go do that one then instead of the one above it. All right, because I do have, I only have 1 minute left. Well, distance learners, you'll get part of number 21. What's inside here? What am I dividing?
X squared minus 28.
X squared minus 28. And what's on the outside?
X minus 5.
X minus what?
5.
Minus 5. Now, I wrote it wrong on purpose. Because what do I need to remember to put in here?
Add 0.
The 0. Yeah, there's no x's. If you forget that, I think you're going to kind of get all out of the line again. Did you say minus 28?
Yeah.
All right. So really, there's 0 x's in there. But then we start the same way, Lily. You're going to do x squared, divide out an x, and you're going to get an x. Write it over that one. And if you didn't put the 0 in there, Lily, it'll throw you off. So watch that. Then we're going